I'm 82 years old, and I'm telling you this because there isn't much time left for me to pretend anymore. My wife's last words didn't sound dramatic. They weren't poetic. But they split my life cleanly in two. Everything before and everything after. I'm sitting alone as I say this. The house is quiet in that way houses get when they've outlived the people who filled them. I don't need sympathy. I'm not asking to be understood. I'm saying this because if I don't, it will disappear with me. And it shouldn't. When you get to my age, time doesn't feel like it's moving faster. It feels like it's already gone. Every morning I wake up surprised I'm still here. Not grateful. Just surprised. I move slower now. My hands shake when I button my shirt. Some days I forget why I walked into a room. But what I remember clearly, painfully clearly, is how I spent my years assuming there would always be more. More days. More chances. More conversations I could have later. I was wrong. I met my wife when I was 31. Her name was Ellen. She wasn't loud or magnetic. She didn't walk into a room and change it. She stayed near the edges, listened more than she spoke, laughed softly. I liked that about her. I told myself I liked calm. What I really liked was that she didn't demand much from me. I was working long hours back then. Accounting. Nothing glamorous. Just steady work. I believed in steady things. I believed if I kept my head down, did my job, provided, everything else would sort itself out. That's what men were taught. That's what I told myself. Ellen and I married 2 years later. Small ceremony. Her parents, my sister, a few friends. I remember thinking, standing there, that this was the beginning of the part where life finally settled down. I didn't realize that settled can also mean quiet in the wrong way. The first few years were fine. Not passionate. Not miserable. Fine. We ate dinner together most nights. Watched television. Talked about work. About bills. About what needed fixing around the house. I thought that was marriage. When she asked me how my day was, I answered briefly. When she talked about hers, I listened halfway. I was tired. I was always tired. I believed tiredness was proof I was doing something right. She used to ask if we could take walks after dinner, just around the block. I said maybe tomorrow. I needed to rest. Tomorrow always felt reasonable. We didn't have children. That was my decision, though I didn't frame it that way at the time. I said we weren't ready. Then I said the timing wasn't right. Then years passed, and the conversation stopped coming up. I didn't notice when she stopped asking. In my 40s, work became my identity. Promotions, raises, more responsibility. People needed me. That mattered to me more than I admitted. At home, Ellen needed less. Or maybe she learned not to need me out loud. She developed routines that didn't include me. Gardening, book clubs, visiting her sister. I told myself it was healthy. Independence. Face. What I didn't see was that space doesn't stay empty. It fills with absence. There were moments, small, quiet moments, where I could have changed things. I see them now like cracks in glass. The night she waited up for me past midnight because she wanted to tell me something, and I told her we could talk in the morning. The weekend she suggested we take a short trip, just the two of us, and I said I couldn't afford the time off. The anniversary I forgot, then brushed off with an apology that sounded practiced even to my own ears. Nothing exploded. Nothing broke loudly. That's what makes it dangerous. Damage that happens slowly doesn't feel like damage at all. By the time I retired at 67, I finally had what I thought I'd been working toward, time. And that's when I realized I had no idea how to use it. Ellen had built a life that didn't revolve around waiting for me anymore. I followed her around the house like a guest who'd stayed too long. I suggested things to do together. She smiled politely, said she already had plans. I remember feeling confused, a little offended. I had done everything I was supposed to do. I provided. I stayed. I didn't cheat. I didn't abandon her, but I hadn't been there. The diagnosis came quietly. A routine appointment, some tests, then a word neither of us wanted to say out loud. Cancer. Advanced. Aggressive. The doctor spoke gently, carefully. Ellen held my hand. I squeezed back like that could make up for decades. The months that followed were a blur of hospital rooms and waiting areas and conversations that felt unfinished. I tried then. God knows I tried then. I took her to appointments. I cooked. I sat beside her bed at night. But effort made late doesn't erase distance built early. She didn't push me away. She didn't punish me. That would have been easier. Instead, she accepted my presence the way you accept rain when you're already soaked. One evening, near the end, she asked me to sit closer. Her voice was weak. She looked smaller than I remembered, like time had already started to take her piece by piece. She said, "I don't think you ever meant to hurt me." I nodded. I wanted to tell her she was right, that I loved her, that I always had. Then she said, "I just wish you'd wanted me while I was still here." That was it. That was what she left me with. Not anger, not blame, just truth. She died 2 days later. I've replayed those words more times than I can count. In the quiet, in the dark, in the middle of ordinary afternoons when they come back without warning. I wish you'd wanted me while I was still here. There is no fixing that sentence. There is no arguing with it. It doesn't accuse. It doesn't explain. It just stands there. After the funeral, people checked in. Then they didn't. Life moved on, as it does. I stayed in the house because I didn't know where else to go. Her things stayed where she left them. Not because I was sentimental. Because I didn't know who I was without them. Loneliness in old age isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It hums. Constant, low. Like a refrigerator in an empty kitchen. I thought about all the years I assumed we were fine because nothing was wrong enough to demand my attention. I thought about how often I chose comfort over connection. Efficiency over presence. Tomorrow over now. I had believed love was something you secured once and then maintained by not messing up too badly. I was wrong. Love needs to be chosen again and again, out loud, with time and attention. Not perfectly, just deliberately. There are things I can't fix now. I can't ask her how her day was and really listen. I can't take those walks. I can't go back to the man I was when she still had hope that I might show up differently. All I have left is honesty. If you're listening to this and you still have someone who sits quietly beside you, someone who waits, someone who doesn't ask for much, please understand this. Silence does not mean satisfaction. Patience is not endless. Love can fade without ever making a sound. I'm not telling you to change your life. I'm not qualified for that. I'm telling you what it feels like to realize, at the end, that you were loved more generously than you deserved, and noticed it too late. I don't have many years left. I know that now in my bones. I spend my days slowly. I think often. I talk to Ellen sometimes, though I don't believe she hears me. It helps anyway. I've made peace with a lot, but not with everything. If this meant something to you, hold on to it quietly. You don't need to do anything dramatic. Just don't wait the way I did. Because one day, you'll be sitting in a quiet house, remembering words you can't undo, and you'll understand that time doesn't warn you when it's running out. It just leaves.